this takes me back a little bit. Let me just tell a story. Now, in high school, before I joined high school personally, I had that fear of joining a boarding school because of the fire breakout. Fire breakouts have been there for the longest time, especially the 2017 ones. 2017 was the most recent. And every time we saw it in news, I was literally so scared, you know? What if it happens in my school? What if students decide to ban? Well, personally, I would never do that, you know? But boarding is not easy. Boarding is not easy. But we have to teach students to turn off the lock or turn on the lock and just know you're in a school environment. Now, I'm telling a story. Now, when I was in high school, before I joined, I was literally afraid of joining a boarding school. But you find that, you at the back of your mind you ask yourself, what if it happens? What if the dormitory is banned? What if wakichoma dormitory? But then I joined I joined high school, and the scariest part was that, the scariest part was school burnout and all that. And the closest I've ever came, or the closest to that panic, was in 2018. 2018, I was in Form 3, by the way. Am I old? Whoever is watching, I don't know. I don't know if that is old. So in 2018, I was in Form 3. Now in 2018, we had our elections, and I got elected as the school captain, you know. So we have in my school, or in my former school, we had that thing of kama uko Form 4, the outgoing president and deputy president, and the incoming president and the deputy president. Now, we, the Form 3, me, the deputy president and the president, that was me now, we were the incoming. And we had the outgoing. Now, what happened is, I don't know, for us, we used to be served food kwa masilia. We used to be served food kwa sufurias, and then we had an open kitchen mahali masufuria zilikuwa zinawekwa mahali hapa hivi. Hey, somewhere here, I was actually in a school far away, huko hivyo, almost Somalia, and the school was called Sombe Girls. Actually, it nurtured me so much. So anyway, we are talking about the sufurias. Now, masufuria zilikuwa, so we have a table of 10. Tuko na a table that has 10 people, you know, at one sufuria mnakula 10 people. So you find that mnaenda mnaserviwa food, you get served kwa food, get like you have somebody who is serving in that 10. So unapata number 1 leo ndio anaserve, kama ni skuma, kama ni ugali, inaitwaje, kama ni ugali na mboga, kuna mwenye anaendea sufuria ugali, kuna mwenye anaendea sufuria ya mboga. Ndio sasa mnakuja mnapatana kwa table. Kuna mwenye anaserve asubuhi, 2 lunch, tea, third mwenye anaserve, kuna mwenye anaserve porridge, kuna mwenye anaserve tea, kuna mwenye anaserve lunch, kuna mwenye anaserve supper. So at the end of the day unapata per day it's almost watu 5 wameserve, or sijui walikuwa na serve per day. I literally never knew because I was a prefect, so I literally cannot remember how that thing was going. Now what happened this one Sunday was wamendea food, you know. Mimi, we used to, niko Form 3, sasa kuna outgoing. So it is actually, hiyo ndio siku tumechaguliwa, literally tumechaguliwa that same day, tumechaguliwa hiyo siku. And kuchaguliwa on that day, I remember that was my first week as a president, and then everything broke loose. I mean, wameendia masufuria, and mi kuelezea story ni ngumu. Wameendia sufuria, wakapata, unaonanga venye nafunikwa na karatasi ya black, wakapata iko na kaarufu. I think the servers, the cooks waliserve a little bit earlier than usual. So students kuendea food wakapata iko na kaarufu. So mimi nilibaki class. In the meantime, nilibaki class ndio, I don't know, niende nikapate watu washa serve and all that. You know, just still in time, I was a bookworm. Yeah, so I was giving them time wa serve and all that. Nikiwa class, nikashtuliwa na kelele class. Nasikia DH, watu wanalia, like people are banging on the tables, masahani ziko. I'm like, what is happening? And let me tell you, that is the scariest, or the closest I've ever came. Like, that was the most scariest time for me as a leader. First and foremost, as a leader, that was the most scariest time for me, because niko classroom, and we have kids, we have students who are banging tables. Kuingia, let me tell you, kuingia, it was all, as the incoming president. Of course, I had to be the one to act fast, then kufika kufika napata the DH is noisy, the DH is messier, people are on top of the tables, alafu zilikuwa tables za mabati, so you can imagine. So when people are banging, we cannot even hear. So my role was actually to try and calm them down. Hey, you guys, please nyamazeni, nyamazeni. Mimi na hii soprano yangu hata haikuwa inasikika totally. My soprano was not even being, like, literally. So you can imagine kasauti kangu hata akafiki katikati ya DH. So I'm like, can you keep quiet? Can you keep quiet? Nyamazeni. Hakuna mtu ananisikia. Now, there was we had students who are already, wale kwanza, those notorious students, like wale watu shape hapa, no, it was their time to shine now, they are saying, oh, hii chakula inanuka vibaya, mbona mnatusavia food nini vitu kama hizo. Now mind you, the principal was not there. It was on a Sunday, so there are no teachers around. Teacher on TOD ashaenda, deputy principal ayuko ako, they used to sleep in the quarters, the principal pia ayuko, you can imagine. So the principal used to go. Now the good thing, or even the bad part, Prince akaingia kama sija calm watu. Principal aliingia ka, I have not calmed the guys. So akasikia the noise. The first thing she did, alienda akapack. Now the outgoing president and the deputy president, they came. Hey! So we had some other prefects who wakapanda juu ya table, and they were like trying to calm the students and all that. And those guys, the outgoing, I think walikam after Prince ameingia and all that. So by the time Prince alikuwa anaingia DH, alikuwa shapata watu washatulia, but hawakuli. So akaambiwa warudi class. I have turned this whole thing to a story time. Wakaambiwa rudi class and all that. Now after principal ameingia, depa pia ashaingia. Now it was to look for the culprits. Who started the whole mess? And who is at the center of the questioning? Who else if it's not the incoming president? Mimi, I felt, the outgoing president hawaulizwi hata sana so much kama mimi. Now, I cannot even, Mimi, I remembered a few people who I was seeing on top of that. I can even mention them until today, but this is a different life, a different setup. But their names literally stuck on you. Those are the people, they gave me trauma. I think I can't say that was my worst time, but that was my most trying time as a leader, So it was an back and forth thing. Mnaenda kwa principal, you are being called to the principal's office back and forth until you produce a tangible reason why were people making noise, why were people rioting, why was there chaos in the DH. And personally, I found mi niliona ni kama pia deputy president hakuwa anaulizwa so much kama mimi. Like, I'm trying to say, at the end of the day, the outgoing deputy president and the outgoing president, they were not being questioned kama mimi venye nilikuwa nakuwa questioned. And not even my deputy president, hata yeye, she wasn't being questioned the way I was being questioned. It was a school girls, by the way. It was a purely school girls. Hakukuwa na men who were actually starting the whole thing. It was purely girls. And for me, that was my most trying time, because I lacked even answers. I even lacked answers to present to the student or to the principal and the deputy principal. And now, of course, wakaenda wakaangalia food. Now, after kuangalia food, wakapata hiyo karufu kashaisha. So, for them, that reason wasn't making sense. So, hawakupata when the food was smelling as bad as it was that time, when the students started saying that the food was smelling bad, the principal akikuja hakupata the food ikinuka that bad. And I don't know kama you understanding what I mean. So for them, they just felt like it was an excuse for the students to protest. Now, you have been elected your first time as a president. First and foremost, I never asked for that seat. I never even vied for that seat. For us, what we used to do in our school, the teachers would go and sit and actually waangalie kwa ground according to the performing, how the kids are performing, and also according to how disciplinarian, your history and all that. Personally, I was a performer. And I was also chosen as a cheerleader of the CU. And frankly speaking, it's very unfair. Literally, I think let me have this one as an experience. Let me just wacha niziunganishe tu zote nifungue tu roho yangu, but I thank God. I literally thank God. Because it was literally so unfair. You do not get to question, or you don't get to question when you, now you also don't get refused when you're elected as a leader. Let me put it out like that. You do not get to refuse, or you do not get to turn down when you are chosen as a leader. Now, I cannot really say why I was picked as a president at the same time as a chairlady, but I don't know. But as a chairlady, I'll say, I wasn't so much into the CU, but when it comes to the chairlady, mimi usemanga, I think the teachers knew who was going to be a leader, or who was going to be the president, because when I was informed to, I remember my class teacher told me, unajua pia kuna venye wezi, there's a time I was eating outside kwa DH, and I met my class teacher outside, alikuwa TOD hiyo siku. Akaniambia, uwezi kulia nje, and in future, na niko form 2, in future, unachakuliangwa next year, like form 3 kishaisha, term 3. Next year we plan to make you one of the leaders. We plan to make you the president. Okay, probably he said it as a joke, I literally never knew, but I didn't see that coming. But we did have other viable people who could have been elected as leaders, as the president, but I didn't know how I ended up being chosen as a president. But I was a performer. They were also looking for a performer, lakini hapo kwa ati leadership skills, sauti yangu ndo hii. Kushout, I can't even shout at people. I can't even command watu. And when I used to speak in assembly and all that, maybe I could even cry, When not cry, I could even get emotional. And my class knew me. My class knew me as one of the emotional, sensitive people when I'm giving advice. Is it advice really? Or when I'm telling people, let's work hard, let's do this. And the school that I was working, mimi nikianza kusema my school history sahi, man, it's so long. I remember in Form 4, we used to tell kids, I used to stand in front of students and in front of my fellow students and tell them, honestly, we have to work hard. Because Mimi, I was having that fear of, we have not, like we were not, the school was not that performing, but it was a sub-county school, but it wasn't that so much performing, okay? Because we could not get A's, and even if you were a bright student, you would end up failing in one way or the other. So that was one of my most fears. So nanipata mbele ya students nawaambia, my form 4, my class, nawaambia aki manze, aki tutieni bidii. Alafu hiyo time nilikuwa nashinda kwa ofisi ya depa, kwa ofisi ya prinsi, wakiniambia, Kashi, you have to work hard, you're a cheerleader. Imagine all those roles, you're a cheerleader, you're a president, and you still have to perform. And you are not the president alikuwa na kazi mingi, by the way, not gonna lie. And I remember, one of the saddest time as a leader, it was when my leaders, all the prefects waliamua kuniachanishi. Yani poreja uji, amuko mnadhani kama mnaweza tokea huku, si ndio? Mlikuwa mnadhani story tutaacha sombe. Anyway, it's no offense. But honestly, I do remember there are some times that it's so unfair. Literally speaking, it's so unfair. And should I start my school series? Should I literally start my school series? I don't know. Literally, I don't know. But my school had its fun side and it had its worst side. But as a leader, it came at a lot of expense. It came at a lot of sacrifice. Atu kionanga, okay, the routine was literally necessary because currently what I'm seeing in life, I think high school was trying to teach me how to multitask. Because at the level of which I am multitasking these salaries, I'm trying. I think it all started all the way back there. But I look back and mimi musema, as long as I performed academically, And I was a fair and just leader, a very fair and just leader. No one will stand and start saying I was unfair to them. But I did punish people, and some people hate me for that. But personally, I was also under a lot of pressure from the from the principal, and that whole scenario of the day that I was chosen to be a leader, or the day that I was elected to be a president, it gave me a lot of trauma, because I felt like Prince nikienda kwa ofisi, the principal was always like, you know what, if this is how you're going to start, how are you going to maintain these kids to respect you? How are you going to silence them? How are you going to discipline them? So it literally pinched me so hard and made me change my leadership, made me become so harsh on people, because nilikuja kujua if I do not be harsh on them, man, watanikalia. And I had to thank heavens we were the most respected. Most respected were the prefects. Eri usikie, eri Depa alikuwa anasema eri ukose kusikia mwalimu lakini usikie prefect, and that was a privilege to us, because we got respect from that. Pia we were, and thank heavens they never decided to ban the school. Yeah, that was, thank heavens. Thank heavens they didn't have the guts, because mimi nakwambia, mi ningeteswa, I'm very sure ningeteswa, because I was strict. I was literally very strict to people. So if they ever decided to ban dormitories, I don't know. I could have been that, but I wasn't that harsh. Honestly, I wasn't that harsh. I was just strict. But it was the event that happened on that fateful night, on that fateful Sunday, that changed how I became, how I led, or that changed my leadership, that made me to be very strict. So anyway, guys, my condolences to every parent who has lost her child in this fateful, or in this fire crisis. My heart bleeds with you. But thank you so much for watching to the end. It's been me, Milian Kashi. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. 27.